In this video, I'm going to be going through concepts like basic color corrections, color grading, Lumetri scopes, and skin tones. So if you want to make your footage look cinematic and color correct like a pro, stay tuned, and I'm going to get straight into it. So you want to start off by going over to the workspace and clicking on color. You will now have the basic color correction panel. We're firstly going to focus on the Lumetri scopes. If you still can't see either of these, you want to go over to Window and make sure that Lumetri Color and Lumetri Scopes are both ticked. We are going to be focusing on the vectorscope YUV and the waveform Luma. If you can't see either of these, click on the settings and the wrench icon, and then click on waveform Luma and vectorscope YUV. If the waveform is a different type, go on waveform type and click on Luma. So the key is with the waveform Luma is to make sure that it is nicely spread out. And basically what the waveform Luma does is it assesses how much brightness you have in your video. So 100 is the brightest parts of your video and 0 is the darkest parts of your video. So you want to make sure that this is nicely spread out and you have a good balance. You also want to make sure that you avoid the whole graph sticking to 0 or sticking to 100. Otherwise it would be too bright or too dark. So then moving on to the vectorscope YUV, and this is basically a representation of all of the colors in your video. So as you can see on here, we have greens, cyans, blue, magenta, red, and yellows. And here, judging by this in the middle, we can see we have lots of red and we have lots of yellow and a bit of green. So the key here is to distribute this evenly, a bit like the waveform Luma. However, there may be some contexts where you want more color than the other. So here, for example, it's a woman walking through some nature or the park, so you're going to naturally have more yellows and greens than other colors. So now we're going to get into a bit of basic color correction. So I'm going to go into the basic correction panel, and the goal here is to strike a good white balance using the waveform Luma and the vectorscope YUV. So to strike a good white balance, you can use the eyedropper here and find anything white in the image in order to strike this white balance. Maybe I'd go for the jeans here. However, with this, as you can see, it's not done a very good job, but this is one way of doing it. So I'm going to press reset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this temperature and I'm going to pay attention to the vectorscope YUV, and the goal here is to make sure that it centers more. So here I'm going to shift it left slightly, ever so slightly, and as you can see here with the sort of matter in the middle here, it's shifting more towards the center, and that's what we want when we're trying to strike this white balance. And we also want the waveform Luma to be well spread out. So here, as you can see, I'm adjusting the temperature and the vectorscope YV is centering more, and I'm just trying to find a good balance here so it doesn't look too blue, but I think that looks a lot better. If you want to see how it looks compared to the old look, you can press on this FX here. And here you can see a big difference. Here it looks a lot more orange, but as you see when I press the effects, it is definitely got a much better white balance. So now I'm going to be focusing on the skin tone. So what I'm first going to do here is I'm going to zoom into this image and I'm going to draw a mask over this woman's skin. So I'm going to go over to the effect controls. I'm going to click on the pen tool on the opacity layer, and I'm going to draw a mask over the skin. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go over to Lumetri Scopes and I'm going to be focusing on the vectorscope YUV. Now, this sort of white matter here is a representation of the colors within the mask, the sort of skin tone. And what I want to do is line up this sort of white matter with the line here, which is also known as the skin tone line. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go over to the Lumetri color and I'm going to go over to curves. And I'm going to scroll down until I see hue versus hue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a circle at the start of the red, and then I'm also going to add a circle where the yellow is. And then I'm also going to add a circle in the middle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold on the middle circle and drag up what you're going to see is the white matter is going to start to move, and I want to line this up with the skin tone line. So you can see there, I have perfectly lined up the white matter with the skin tone line. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go over to Effect Controls and I'm going to remove the mask. Now you can see that the skin tone has got a much better balance and will give it a much more cinematic feel. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next.